This little routine that I'm going to show you is to help you out if you are a cyclist to get you ready for your ride. So some of it is myofascial release, and some of it is activating the tissues that you'll be using when you're riding, getting them ready to work. So we're going to start with myofascial work. And so, of course, when you are cycling and many other activities like running, you are definitely including feet and calves and ankle area. And I know you're locked into a shoe in a particular position when you're cycling, but these are definitely still working and should be getting a lot of power out of those areas that can't happen if they are stuck. So we're going to take 2 of our yoga tune-up balls and we're going to be releasing the calves. So there's several ways you can do this. I'm just going to show you one today, and then I'll show you another one another day. So you're going to place one of the balls underneath the bottom part of your calf, and then the other one will go on top. So you're kind of like sandwiching your calf in between the 2 balls. And I start to lean in and out, and I'm on the fleshy part of my tissue down here. I'm not intentionally pressing into bones. Now, if you do hit a bone, these balls have some give. You should not hurt yourself or bruise yourself, but please be careful. And I'm working my way all the way down to my ankle. And in fact, I'm coming all the way down to the ankle, and I might even press into the arch of my foot. And then I'll start to make my way back up. And I can just press in and out, or I can make some circles. And I could just set this ball aside and do this with the heel of my hand as well. And then the one on the bottom is also getting some work. And then eventually I'll start to move that ball down. And again, I could use the heel of my hand or this other ball to press in and work down the calf. And again, around the ankle and even into the foot again. Perhaps I move the ball down another little bit, and maybe this time I do the pass through with the heel of my hand. Again, I'll start to work my way all the way down until eventually I might even be right on the ankle itself. There's a little bit of a balancing act there as I do that, so be careful. And I could pin again with this other ball. So ankle, waking up, or releasing if it's stuck. So all of this tissue in and around here. Now I recommend in this area at least 90 seconds, but you can do it up to 5 minutes. So if you need more time, you could pause the video here and take your time and do a little bit more here. I'm going to make my way to the other side and start to release my second side. So again, it goes underneath and then press in with this top one, in and out. Kind of like a pumping action or like a plowing action as I press in and release and press in and release all the way to the foot. I might spend some time rolling the arch of my foot out a little bit. And I'll start to move this other one down. Maybe I'll do a pass with the heel of my own hand. And I'll start to, again, move it down even a little bit more. And eventually I make my way all the way down by the ankle itself and continue to do some work down here by the ankle. I'm taking some deep breaths as I continue on. Okay, so now I'm going to do a stretch for my feet. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross one foot on top of the other. So the foot, some people accidentally go on top of the bottom part of the calf. Now that's not necessarily wrong, that's just a different stretch. So right now I'm trying to get the feet. So the bony part of one foot, at the top of my, we'll say my left foot, goes on the arch of my right. So I might be able to sit all the way up like this. It's a lot of pull on the thighs, which isn't a bad thing. Those might be tight on you. But if it's too much on the knees, maybe placing a pillow or some towels in the knee joint there. And you can certainly also just not come all the way back. You can hang out here. So there's a couple things happening here. Now my foot is stretching, so it's getting this stretch like this into plantar flexion. So pointing kind of flexion. And then we have a press down. That bony part of my foot is also doing some myofascial release on the arch of the other foot. There's a couple things happening here, a stretch and a direct pinning with myofascial release. My bony part of my one foot is acting like the ball in the arch of the other foot. All right, so let's switch. So you might even, because of the position of feet, feel a little bit of a stretch in the front of the shin. So that's getting in and around the area we just worked with the ball as well. And if you're not feeling that, but you want to, you might lean back. And again, check in. If that's too much on the knees, please be careful. So I'm not a big fan of intentionally putting a lot of strain on the joints. There is some benefit to putting a little, but not excessive. So be careful. If you are feeling it in the knees in an extreme way, I would back it off. And just breathing here, stretching, feeling the stretch, taking some deep breaths, and letting it go. Seeing if I can release and relax all of that tissue. Okay, good. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and take, again, one of these balls now, and we're going to be releasing all the glute area. So your glutes are your powerhouse. I know your quads and your hamstrings absolutely included and involved in working and pressing you through the pedals and giving you power, but believe it or not, your glutes are your big powerhouse. If they are locked up, you are not going to have the amount of power that you would likely have. So if you're stuck in any of these areas in your glute, you will not be able to put out as much power as you would like. So I'm sitting sort of side saddle. It's on my right outer glute, and I'm going to just kind of clamshell this leg in and out. Now, if I feel like I can come down on my elbow, that's going to make it a little bit more intense, then I will. If not, then I can just sit up here. So if I'm able, I'm on my arm, I'm leaning in. And this can be pretty intense, so take some deep breaths. Just letting that go. Now, always checking back in with the breath. You hear me say this over and over, but if for some reason you're not able to take a deep breath, if you're like, it's so intense, I'm stuck up in my throat or my chest with my breath, you might need to move the ball to a different location. If it feels okay, you can start to move up and down and around. Now, if it is so intense, you can't take a deep breath, one option is to just take this to the wall and do some of the same things. So I can move around, I can do some moving of this leg, and sometimes this might be more appropriate. Like let's say you're not in a location where you can get down on the ground. Maybe you can find a wall and do some of this. So gluteus minimus, gluteus maximus, that's the smaller portion of your glutes. We will also affect the larger portion, gluteus maximus. So all of these areas combined are what give you power to push through those pedals. All right, so we're going to stay on that same right side and show you on the ground. You're going to lay it all the way down first. And I also did the big part of my glute. I'm gonna let my right knee fall out to the side, and I just go side to side now. Rolling side to side. And I could even cross my ankle over my thigh, and that does a little bit of exposing of my piriformis. That's a little muscle that runs through there that if you've ever had sciatica, you're very familiar with. When this area gets tense, locked down, stuck, tight, whatever you want to say, it can press on your sciatic nerve. I'm going to sit up and keep going. This can be a little more intense, so be careful. If you've ever had pressure on that nerve, ooh, it's painful. It can cause numbness, running down the leg. Not very fun. And again, same thing. I could come to the wall. If this is too intense, I just come to the wall. Do some of those same movements. And I said this is for your cycling routine, and it is. So this is something you might want to do before you cycle, but of course before you run or really any sporting activity, any workout even, it would be really beneficial. I'm going to do a separate video that I consider more for the runners, and you could certainly do your glutes for running, but I'm going to go ahead and involve a little bit more hamstring and quadriceps for the video for running. And again, they could both be great for either activity. So I'm going to go to my left side now, upper, outer glute. And I go again in that clamshell type movement with the leg. Maybe I come down here. Good work. And again, I can move around, up and down, side to side. And very oftentimes you'll have one side more intense than the other, really common. But again, say it over and over. Sounds like a broken record, I'm sure, but if it's so intense that you are stuck up in your chest or your throat with your breathing, it's probably too much. So many of us spend the majority of our lives in this shortened breath state. And it's useful when you want to have a lot of power, sprinting, lifting heavy, running from a tiger. Absolutely, really important. But the rest of the time, we should be able to breathe deep into our lower part of our respiratory system. Our diaphragm should be able to expand down into our belly region. So when you take a deep breath, ideally, you're able to breathe and your belly will actually lift and expand. If you ever watch a toddler breathe before they have all the bills and things to stress them out in life, they breathe into their bellies. They're not trying to brace. That's the other thing that can happen. You start to really do too much core work, you can make it difficult to take your deep breath. So yes, it's important to have strong, deep down core muscles. If you overdo it, you can actually create an issue with your respiratory ability. And believe it or not, here's another little trivia for you. Deep diaphragmatic breathing, that full inhale and complete exhale, works your core also. So you're actually doing core work when you are doing deep breathing into that belly region. All right, so of course, when you are cycling, we spend a lot of time, or can spend a lot of time in this sort of hunched over position. I mean, it's not ideal, but eventually most of us, if we're cycling, we end up kind of hunched over. So I'm going to be showing you something you can do with a foam roller to create more space. So the foam roller, or you could also use your Yoga Tuna Falls if that's what you have, or any other kind of something like this that might work, but be careful, make sure it's something that's not going to bruise your spine. So I've got this right about my middle upper back. Right there. And I'm going to clasp my hands behind my head, but then squeeze my elbows in. And then lean over the roller. My rear end stays on the ground. And then I slowly come back up. It almost looks like I'm doing crunches, but I'm not. So I'm leaning over, and your range will be different than mine. I've worked a lot on this, so I'm actually pretty mobile in my thoracic spine. Good. Up and down, nice and slow, and I breathe while I do this. So inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. So the next one, I'm going to stay and then let my elbows come out. So now I get a stretch across my chest and shoulders. I can stay here supporting my head just like this for a few breaths. I could also, as long as my neck is okay with it, let my arms extend back. Here's a little ball I might place under my head, or a pillow if I need some support for my head and neck. I want to be careful I'm not overstretching the front or the back. So if it's uncomfortable, please support your head. And that might simply mean you still keep both hands behind your head instead of letting those arms go back. And I'm going to lift up and start to roll all of that out. And then I'll pause again in the middle and then just do a little twisting. So super slow, so my chest stays facing the ceiling, and I twist like a side crunch, right elbow towards right hip, and then super slow the other way. Now, the closer the roller is, or the balls, or whatever you have back there, to your body, the more you're going to be able to feel this. So right now, this roller is grabbing my skin a little bit and twisting it. It's kind of wringing it out, or actually more like hydrating it. So think of like a sponge and how it would be if there was no water in it. It's like hard as a rock. So this is actually like adding water to your sponge and letting it be pliable again. And I'm breathing. Okay. So then I highly recommend you activate the tissues that we just worked a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of activation for my glutes, and that can be done with a band around your knees if you wanted or not. So just activating the tissue I just released a little bit by doing some clamshells. That's just waking up those hips. So I could do it laying down. And again, I could put a band around my thighs and create a little more resistance, but it's not really about, quote, exercising the area as it is about doing a little activation and getting a little more blood flow in there so it's ready to go. We did that with the rolling, but this is like warming it up a little bit more. So I could come on my forearm also. And again, just pumping some blood into the area. Anything that's going to give us the edge, right? So your body's going to be more prepared than your average person to get on that bike if you do this kind of work before you get on your bike. Good. And then one last one. So just coming out of the balls of the feet. So waking up the feet, the ankles, the calves. I could even do just I'm barely even coming off the ground. So, and I'm getting loosey-goosey in my whole body. So this actually not only gets my calves and feet and ankles, but it actually stimulates the whole system. See, I'm just letting my body be loosey-goosey. And I am going to be way more ready to go than my competition. All right, so I hope that that's helpful for you. Have a great day.